welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into, well, a truly fascinating and sometimes pretty unsettling piece of history. The Jinyiwei of Ming Dynasty China.
Right.
This wasn't your average imperial guard, not at all. It was an institution operating completely outside the normal government structure.
Directly under the emperor's thumb. That's the key part.
Exactly. And just mentioning their name could make people shudder. So we're going to unpack where they came from, surprisingly humble origins, really, and how they morphed from an honor guard into something, well, much more pervasive.
And what's so captivating, I think, is how the story, this whole Jinyiwei narrative, offers these profound lessons, not just about, ancient power games,
Right.
but about organizational control, thinking about strategic assets, even the dangers of unchecked authority. These are things that really echo today, even in modern leadership.
Sort of a historical case study, then, on power and purpose.
And paradox. Definitely paradox.
Okay, let's get into it. So the story starts with the Ming founder, Zhu Yuanzhang. He just pulled together this vast empire after years of conflict, basically took his startup to market dominance, you could say.
Yeah, a brutal startup phase.
But then, as he shifted from being this charismatic rebel leader to an absolute emperor, he hit a fundamental anxiety, didn't he?
He really did. The core problem. How do you manage those powerful people who helped you get there? Your generals, your top officials.
Your early partners.
Exactly. The ones who might now start thinking they deserve a bigger piece of the pie or even challenge your position at the top.
So what was his move? Because in 1364, right at this critical point of trying to solidify everything, he does something that seems odd.
Yeah, it puzzled a lot of people at the time.
He pours immense resources into setting up this really rigorous system of imperial rituals. A whole state identity project.
Grand ceremonies, specific clothing, the works.
Why? When you're still fighting off rivals and trying to build an empire, why focus on something that seems so impractical, like cultural stuff?
But see, from his perspective, and I think the analysis bears this out, it wasn't impractical at all. It was utterly foundational.
Foundational how?
Well, first it was about legitimacy, establishing the Ming brand, if you will, setting themselves apart.
From all the other rebel groups.
Precisely. They needed a unique story. His was restoring the Chinese order, connecting to the past. And the rituals. They were the PR campaign.
Huh. So seizing the moral high ground.
Exactly. And attracting the right kind of talent, the scholar officials you need to actually run the place, it was smart branding.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
Second, think of it like implementing corporate SOPs, standard operating procedures. He looked at why the previous dynasty, the Yuan, collapsed.
Right, lack of discipline.
Lack of discipline, too much power in the regions, orders not being followed. So this cultural construction, it was really organizational restructuring in disguise.
Okay, clarifying rules, job titles, who reports to whom.
Turning a loose band of rebels into an efficient, centralized machine, using culture to enforce structure.
Clever. And the third reason, you mentioned three.
And this one might be the most crucial, certainly for keeping power, managing his own team, the founding team.
The generals again?
The generals, the top officials, the brothers who fought with him, they had to accept a new reality. He was the boss, the absolute boss.
And he suspected some weren't happy about that.
He could sense it, dissatisfaction, potential rivals. So he used the soft constraints of culture and ritual to head off the hard risks of betrayal or rebellion. It was preventative.
Okay. So to actually do all this, the ceremonies, the rules, he needed a dedicated team.
A special project team reporting directly to him. And that, right there, is the seed of the Jinyiwei.
So it started with two departments.
Yeah, and initially separate. You had the Gongwei Si, think of them as the ceremonial events team, big stuff like coronations.
Okay.
And then the Yuluan Si, the personal bodyguards. Executive protection, very strict recruitment, total loyalty required.
And these two eventually merged.
They merged into the Jinyiwei. The emperor's personal honor guard, yes, but also this kind of strategic oversight group.
And they got perks, right, to ensure that loyalty.
Oh, big time. Amazing custom uniforms, those embroidered robes you hear about. Special weapons like the flying fish robes and embroidered spring sabers. Much better pay. Fast promotions.
All designed to make them utterly dependent on and loyal to the emperor.
Exactly. But, and this is critical, a leader like Zhu Yuanzhang, especially with his anxieties, he wasn't just going to build a fancy honor guard.
He had bigger plans for them.
Much bigger. This asset wasn't just for show. It was about to become his sharpest tool, a real instrument of power.
Right, because once the empire is kind of up and running, the main job shifts, doesn't it? It becomes about keeping control.
Preventing internal threats. Subversion, absolutely.
So the Ming emperors kept investing in the Jinyiwei.
Right.
What was the first big area?
The first major shift was into internal audit and, well, executive surveillance.
Spying on his own official.
Pretty much. After Zhu Yuanzhang was firmly on the throne, that founder's paranoia, it really kicked in. He just didn't trust the people who'd helped him get there.
Worried they'd take his job or were corrupt?
Both. He felt the normal government machinery, the courts, the ministries, they couldn't be trusted. They might be biased or infiltrated. He needed his own internal affairs unit.
One that answered only to him.
Only to him, completely bypassing the regular system.
And the Hu Yang case is the classic example here.
The perfect storm. Hu Yang was the Grand Counselor, incredibly powerful, basically the COO.
And he started acting like it.
Exactly. Making decisions without checking, filtering reports going to the emperor, creating his own power base. And then the final straw, he meets this important foreign envoy, doesn't tell the emperor. That completely crossed the line.
So how did Zhu Yuanzhang react?
Ruthlessly. And here's where the Jinyiwei pivot. He didn't use the normal legal channels, the 3 judicial offices. No.
He sent in the Jinyiwei.
Directly. Mobilized them completely. The payoff. Huge. He wiped out Hu Weidong and his entire faction. Sent a terrifying message to everyone else.
But it did more than that, didn't it? It set a precedent.
A chilling one. The Zhao Yu. Basically the emperor's private prison.
Outside the legal system?
Totally outside. Cases decided personally by the emperor. Efficient, brutal, and absolutely loyal, the Jinyiwei went from honor guard to feared secret police almost overnight.
And once a ruler finds a tool that effective.
You can't resist using it more, can you? Which leads to the second investment.
Which was?
Business expansion. Strategic spillover, you could call it. Applying their unique skills to other problems.
So not just spying and internal purges.
No, their remit grew. Under Emperor Xuanzang, for instance, the regular army couldn't secure the Grand Canal, a vital supply line.
So they set the Jinyiwei.
Yep. Asset protection, essentially. Their operations spread out from the capital across the country. They even started recruiting specialists.
Like translators.
Exactly. Got involved in diplomacy, intelligence gathering against rivals like the Mongols. And during that Tumu crisis, when the Emperor Yingzong was actually captured.
A major disaster.
Huge. It was the Jinyiwei acting as a secure couriers, getting vital messages about the succession through. They became indispensable in new ways.
But then there's a third investment. And this one sounds darker.
It is. Fulfilling personal needs. This is where the Jinyiwei became the emperor's private enforcers, their black glove.
How so?
Well, when oversight breaks down completely, the emperor's personal whims take over state policy. You had Emperor Shizong, who had terrible relations with his officials.
So the Jinyiwei
would publicly, brutally flog ministers in court to persuade them. Then Emperor Shenzong, who loved money.
Let me guess, the Jinyiwei became his collectors.
His personal gold-digging team, yeah. Shaking down merchants, finding ways to fill his private treasury. They were even kind of companions for Emperor Wuzong's stranger hobbies.
Playmates, seriously.
And they carried out purely vengeful purges for paranoid emperors like Chongzhen later on. It was this incredibly convenient tool for the ruler.
Unparalleled convenience, maybe. But you mentioned costs. Staggering costs.
And that's the flip side. Any power asset like this, one that bypasses normal rules, its maintenance cost just spirals. And eventually, it poisons the whole organization.
What were those costs? Let's break them down.
First, the direct financial cost. A total black hole.
Because their budget wasn't controlled by the regular finance ministry.
Exactly. They answered to the emperor, so funding was basically unlimited. Their numbers exploded, maybe 20,000 members at peak.
Wow.
And they got special perks like tax exemptions. So more people eating the state's food, fewer contributing. Their salaries were way higher than other officials.
Plus bonuses from the emperor.
Right. Minor things could get massive payouts. Finance officials must have been tearing their hair out.
Yeah.
And corruption.
Rampant, I assume.
Especially when they oversaw big projects. Easy to demand extra funds, skim huge amounts off the top. It became a hotbed of corruption.
Okay, so a financial drain and a source of corruption. What else?
The indirect costs. Maybe even worse. The collapse of the organizational culture. Talent drain.
How did that happen?
They became the ultimate backdoor for getting a government job. Meritocracy went out the window.
Nepotism.
Huge amounts of it. Officials got their relatives' positions. The standards for entry just plummeted. Competence. didn't matter as much as
So it
connections.
wasn't an elite force anymore.
It became, in some ways, a dumping ground. A retirement home for imperial relatives, sons of officials, people getting paid without having the skills or doing the work. The emperor even handed out Jinyiwei posts as personal favors.
Destroying the whole idea of it being a select group.
Completely. The best people wouldn't want to join or couldn't get in through the proper channels.
But you said the most fatal cost.
Yeah.
That was about loyalty itself.
Yes, the uncontrolled principal agent problem, relying on personal loyalty instead of systems. That was the founder's biggest mistake, looking back.
The idea that the local servant might turn on the master.
Exactly. When your watchdog gets powerful enough to hunt on its own, it's dangerous. Jigang, the Jinyiwei commander under Emperor Zuda, is the classic case.
What did he do?
Used the emperor's trust to build his own power base, forged imperial orders, seized resources, even reportedly kept imperial robes hidden away.
Signaling he wanted the throne himself.
That was the implication. Zudai realized the very group he relied on to ensure loyalty had become his biggest threat, the ultimate source of mistrust.
So what did he do? How do you solve that problem?
And his solution. It was a catastrophe. A fatal error in judgment.
What was it?
Instead of fixing or dismantling the Jinyiwei, he created another, even less controllable secret police force to watch them.
You're kidding.
Nope. He turned to his personal eunuch staff people even closer to him, supposedly more loyal, and set up the Eastern Depot, their main job, spying on the Jinyiwei.
So you fight one organizational tumor by creating another, potentially more malignant one.
That's exactly it. And later emperors just copied the playbook. Emperor Shanzong adds the Western Depot to watch the Eastern Depot and the Jinyiwei.
This is getting complicated.
Emperor Wuzong adds the Inner Branch Depot to watch everyone. The whole state becomes riddled with these competing, spying, secret police forces.
Consuming resources, causing chaos.
Endless infighting, political maneuvering. The entire government becomes bloated, paranoid, fragile. There's that saying.
The Ming fell not to bandits, but to the depots and the guard.
Which basically means the dynasty collapsed from the inside out. Not external enemies, but this toxic internal control system they built themselves. A self-inflicted wound.
Wow. That's quite a trajectory. So bringing this forward, what are the big takeaways for us today? What are the insights here?
I think there are three really critical ones. First, a leader's direct power, that ability to bypass normal channels, it's like a high-risk financial option.
High leverage, high risk.
Exactly. In a crisis or pushing major change, it can be incredibly useful, maybe necessary for a founder. But the holding cost?
The financial drain, the cultural damage.
It's huge. And the risks, your agents going rogue, the infighting, they explode if things change, or the leader loses focus. So you can have that special ops team, but you need to be acutely aware of its toxicity. It needs a clear mission, and importantly, an exit plan. It can't become permanent.
Okay, that makes sense. Second insight.
Unchecked loyalty will eat the organization alive. Founders always want loyalty, right?
Of course.
But the Jinyiwei shows us a team that only answers to the leader, with no checks from legal, finance, HR, that loyalty inevitably warps into privilege, entitlement, corruption.
The creation of the Eastern Depot proves that, right? The emperor admitted he'd lost control.
It's a tacit admission. Real organizational security comes from healthy, transparent systems, checks and balances, not just a loyal squad, relying on personal bonds over systems. That's usually a bad long-term investment.
And the third insight.
Beware that self-replication logic. Don't fix one workaround with another, even more dangerous workaround.
And Jinyiwei leading to the Eastern Depot, leading to the Western Depot.
That's the path of organizational cancer. When your fix becomes the new problem, the absolute worst thing is to create another fix outside the normal structure to watch the first one. You just get deeper into the complexity trap.
So what's the alternative?
Go back to basics. Strengthen the formal, transparent governance. Fix the actual structure. Structural problems need structural solutions, not more secret committees or special task forces. Look, if there's one single critical lesson from the whole Jinyiwei saga, I think it's this. That lure of absolute direct control. It might seem efficient, quick, effective in the short term.
Very tempting for any leader.
Immensely tempting. But the long-term price you pay for bypassing strong, transparent systems, for relying on personal loyalty and unchecked power, it's almost always organizational decay. And ultimately, collapse.
That's a powerful takeaway. It really makes you think. When you look around at organizations today, maybe governments, maybe corporations, where do you see similar patterns? Where might that kind of direct power be hiding its own risks, maybe planting the seeds for future problems? What stands out to you? If you found this discussion useful, maybe learned something new, definitely hit that subscribe button. We do these deep dives regularly, exploring valuable ideas.
We appreciate you tuning in.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.